changing so fast now, and it's just really there are a lot of balls in the air right now for, I think, CNOs and CNEs, and and they're all critical, and they're all very very powerful ones that we have to pay attention to. I think right now, the healthcare climate, with all of the changes that are happening at the federal level, at the state level, is just putting a lot of pressure. And those pressures are around budgets and margins. They're getting tighter and tighter. And, how we all want to try to fix that is increasing our patient volumes and increasing our patient targets. As you're trying to build your volumes, that just puts a lot more pressure on your quality metrics and patient experience scores and, those things. And so I think the biggest challenge is the number of competing priorities. And you can't say, oh, well, I just have to prioritize, because you can't right now. There's just so many, and they're all important because, they're all a huge cog in that wheel, if you will. And if you lose one of those, the whole strategy is broken. And so I think it's just been really tough as a CNO, trying to keep that prioritization, especially when we're dealing with things like, the amount of bedside turnover that we have, where, we're not keeping nurses at the bedside for 10, 12, 15 years anymore. We're also seeing that turnover in our nurse leaders. And so, when you think about kind of that one true north, that has to be your CNO and your CNE. And so communications are exceedingly critical. And you have to be very thoughtful about what you put out there, because they can be, obviously interpreted different ways. So you have to be very intentional about that. You've got, all these pressures around meeting the benchmarks and exceeding the benchmarks. And, how do you do that with younger staff that don't have as much experience, with young leaders that don't have as much experience, and trying to build those bridges between those, so that you don't lose, your quality and your safety and your experience things. I think that's the biggest thing right now, is just that everything is an important priority. And so being able to pull it out and say, I'm going to invest my time on this and solve this one first, you really just can't do that. You're moving from one high priority to the next high priority to the next, and it's quick, and you've got to be nimble, and you've got to be able to execute quickly on the first time.